Welcome to the show, Sandeep and Yacine. Great to be here. And just recently getting the Dynamic Neurotech podcast started back up again. And so you guys will be our first guests in the new iteration of the podcast. I guess we could start with Yacine. So you were on the show a couple years ago. First off, welcome back.
Thank you.
Congrats on the acquisition. A lot has happened since we last spoke. Just wondering if you could catch us up on some of the highlights over these past couple years. Maybe a quick intro about the acquisition, and then also just any of the biggest changes you've seen over these last couple years.
Yeah. No, it's been a few years. I'm happy to be back. So thank you, Robert, for inviting me. The on the Wisear side, it's been like an interesting ride. So we've been at it for 7 years with Alain, my co-founder, and we were gearing to kind of launch our first product in 2025, and like a first product where like we would have the ability to capture through electrodes, like eye activity and facial muscle activity. And that's actually in 2024, end of 2024, that's when we crossed paths with Naqi, who was working on a very similar technology and with the goal of targeting the industry of accessibility and helping people with like limited to no hand motricity. And so I think it automatically clicked, as in like we're both trying to build a novel type of device that would provide hands-free, voice-free, screen-free controls for the end user. I think their mission is something that we absolutely matched with. And so earlier on, like end of 2024, we started working together and we started seeing how a Wisear technology could be beneficial to Naqi technology. And over the course of 2025, that's basically what we're doing. And Naqi became quickly our biggest client. And so afterwards, it kind of made sense to actually come together into one single company and tie up more than just like with a licensing deal, our work together and our families together. And that's kind of what led to the acquisition that was finalized at the end of 2025. So here we are today. And so, of course, on the R&D side, we kept working on like a few secretive stuff at this point. But I would say the main focus of the company for the past 12 months has been to blend in our technology with Naqi technology. And specifically, I mean, I don't know if you remember, Robert, but like back in the days, we were mostly working on like a cross-ear device, so meaning a device that would have like both earbuds, but like also a cable between the two. One of the key technical challenge that we're now addressing with Naqi is to reduce that to a single ear form factor, so match basically the regular true wireless earphone form factor, and make sure that our technology can work from like a single earbud and not just like two earbuds connected to the wire. And that's been kind of one of the main challenges we've been working on with the Naqi team in 2025. And we successfully got a prototype that now works pretty well. And so focus for 2026 will be to continue the integration, but also focus on the industrialization of our first products. Yeah, I think that's a good summary. And I will let, of course, Sandeep introduce himself afterward and complete that introduction. But I think that's where we are today. And we're super happy that we finally got together with Naqi and get to that point in time.
Yeah, it sounds like it's been an exciting few years, lots of innovation going on. As you mentioned, some partnerships, and that was great to hear. Sandeep, if you can give us a quick introduction, first off about yourself, and then also just about your team, and also what caught your eye about Wisear as you guys were working to forge that initial partnership that Yacine mentioned here.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert, again for having me here. And of course, as we were talking earlier, I've been in the tech space for more than 2 decades, mostly with the large tech companies. So I have worked with the likes of HP, Dell, and Samsung. And Samsung is my last stint where I spent 12 and a half years, half of my time in Korea, another half in Bay Area. And it's close to 2 years ago when I was approached by someone asking me to see if I'm interested in Naqi. So that's how I landed in Naqi, because I had not heard about it. But when I heard about the mission of what Naqi is on to, what really caused Dave Siegel, who is the inventor of Naqi, to really get this going, and how the company started, and then looking at the pedigree of the CEO and the team, where they come from, what kind of projects they have been involved in, I kind of felt a need that, okay, I could add some value here. So that's how I came in as a chief business officer to manage the commercialization aspect of it, the partnership side of it, and pretty much looking into what we can do to bring this technology to life and in the hands of consumers. With regards to Wisear, and I think you said what caught my eyes. I think Yacine already kind of addressed some of those points. And most important is the mission, right? The mission remains more or less very similar, very close. Is how to enable a silent, touch-free, voice-free interface where people can actually interact with the technology, interact with the devices around them. So that was definitely the case. But personally, for me, couple of things stood out apart from the technology side of it is a people is the most important, right? And as also Yashin mentioned that we have been working for a while together, it's basically was very clear this is a perfect way to get together because usually in my past experiences as well, where I have seen some of the M&As, mostly they do not go through all the way because of the people and culture, right? But that was definitely stood out. Very, very motivated people on the other side of the team as well, which is really stood out for me. And the second part is the future aspiration of Naqi. So I have worked on the global scale and with the global companies in the past, and for Naqi, North America is just the start. So as we go beyond North America, our next stop is, of course, is Europe and beyond, right? So when we do that, usually you would parachute somebody and they will initiate the work over there. Versus here, you have a team which is already based in Europe, knows about the culture, is already passionate about this technology, and it all comes as part of being one team. What better could be? So I would say killing multiple birds with the same stone.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Thanks for giving us that overview there. And just a double click on the expansion to Europe. So I guess my understanding is that the Wisear team had mostly been based in Paris. The Naqi team had mostly been based in North America. And so now post acquisition, how does the combined team look? Does the Wisear team stay out in Europe kind of as autonomous R&D hub, or is there going to be a bit more crossover between teams and geographies as you guys have recently merged together here?
Good question. Yasin mentioned, right, this is a marriage. So it's not like a autonomous team or two different teams or multiple teams. And so it is one team, one mission, right? One shared vision, and everybody is working toward one goal. So that is not an issue at all. I guess one of the thing which COVID did right for people is doesn't matter where you are based. I mean, if you want, you can be part of work remotely as well, provided some of the work, of course, need people to be in physical presence, but mostly you can do things remotely as well. And on Naqi side itself, the team is also, I won't say like all consolidated in one office, right? I'm based here in California, in Bay Area. Then Dave Siegel is based in the East Coast. Our CEO is based in Vancouver. So team itself is even on Naki's side is pretty different in terms of time zones and things like that. So I don't think so that is a constraint at all. At the end of the day, it all boils down to do you all share the common vision and are you willing to work towards it? I don't know, Yasin, if you would like to add anything, because I don't necessarily.
Yeah, it's not an issue per se. I think the goal is, and there are like quite a few advantages in having a hub in France. The government subsidies are pretty important for deep tech companies. You also have like a pool of engineers that's like amazing. We have like some of the best engineering school in Europe and in the world. So there is a strong value in having a hub in France that can capture and tap into the local ecosystem. And so I think the goal is to kind of like keep that office at the moment and maintain like grow it as the company grows, and potentially maybe at the end of the day centralize most of the neurotech research that's done in Paris. And like where Nike had a strong edge originally was on more of the head motion detection using the accelerometer. And so potentially have these two teams separated from just a pure operational standpoint and geographical areas, but still again working towards the same product. But yeah, no, so the goal is really to keep that French hub and keep kind of the product, business development and executive team in the US and kind of try to kind of grow the company like this, try to benefit from both ecosystems.
Kind of a question for both of you, just double clicking on the shared goals and the shared products and the shared things that you guys are working towards. Could you give the listeners perhaps some concrete examples of the synergies that this new combined entity can unlock and maybe some things that you can now pursue maybe from the technical side that might not have been possible as separate teams, for example?
I think when we started working with Naqi, we realized that basically the way the two companies had evolved was really just the perfect match. And the reason why I'm saying this is because from a technical standpoint, we both had the same vision, which was that we wanted to use the head as kind of like a hands-free, voice-free, screen-free mouse, so using your head as a pointer and then using facial micro gestures or like subtle gestures, like eye gestures as a way to kind of do the selection. So, you move your head to kind of navigate a screen, or you move your head to navigate your smartphone, and then you clench your jaw, for instance, when you want to press on something, when you want to play pause the music, when you want to go to the next song. The way we both had think about it was pretty fun because like we both thought that for the head motion you would use the accelerometer, so the IMU of the device. I mean, that part is no surprise. But then for the selection, we also both wanted to work on the electrode side of the world and like leveraging EMG activity and EOG activity. And Wisear had focused until now mostly on the EXG activity. That's where we had our patent. That's where we had our most thorough research. While Naqi actually had spent a lot of time working on like the head as a head tracker, and measuring that from earbuds, which is actually much more complicated than doing this from like smart glasses, for instance. And so when we came together, it was like, okay, if we actually work together, both of us has like way less R&D to develop to get to the final product, right? And so it's just like bringing our brick, bringing their brick, and like bringing Nike's brick and then bringing that together and like making a single product. So from that standpoint, it made total sense. Like when we realized that, we're like, okay, that's just perfect. And then on top of that, when we looked at the IP, it was exactly the same. Naqi had covered a lot of patents that were mostly around like the head motion. We had patents around the EXG detection. So same thing, like the IP would become actually much stronger. So honestly, from that standpoint, like the synergies were really clear, and we saw right away how we could work together and make that a great product. And so then basically for the past 12 months, what we've been working on are two things. One, bringing these two technological stacks into the same device. So that was number one. And two is actually refining the device for the target audience, being like, as Sandeep mentioned it, people facing accessibility challenges and that cannot, as of today, control a laptop, control their smartphone the same way that you and I can, because like they don't have, like they have limited hand motricity. And so over all the user interviews and product interviews we've been running, we realized that one of the key challenges that they're facing is the lack of autonomy and the lack of comfort and kind of like reliability of the current solutions that exist on the market. And so really the work for the past 12 months have been, let's bring these two bricks together, and now let's build a perfect device with the exact features that are required for people with limited to no hand motricity. And that's kind of really the core focus of the company at the moment.
I think you covered it well. What I would just add to on top of it, as Yacine just mentioned, regarding like how the two IPs combined. So now at the combined entity, Naqi already had close to 30 patents, and then Wisear brings 3-4 patents already, which have been issued. So that's kind of like a whole IP moat kind of grows right in that area. And that consolidation also help us as we bring forward the partnerships and work toward that with the respective partners in the space and in the ecosystem. And so as we work through that, we have not only just consolidated technology in the back end, but also our outreach by having one like the identified market that we are going after. More partnership have been unlocked in the past, right? We have enabled the robotic arm control, which is also towards accessibility side of it, that the teams work together over the past year and is now basically working. Right. So there are many more use cases have been now kind of been unlocked, which is not just limited to the computer where the PC control was main focus by Naqi, or just the mobile where Wisear started with, and combined now we are also unlocking other use cases into that space. So it's pretty much, I would say, has helped us to address some of the things that we both could individually could develop over a period of time, but then why to reinvent the wheel when things are working well and you already know that you have a shared vision and the same goal. So that's how we are together now. So, and it's working toward that. Hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah, that definitely answered my question. So to make a small pivot into the competitive landscapes. We've seen recently like big tech companies like Meta or Apple moving into the neural input or biosignal input realm from their own angles. And I just wondered if you guys had any strategies to either position alongside or compete against perhaps these companies that have, very large pools of resources, essentially unlimited pools of resources or team sizes.
Yeah, so I think competition is good, to be honest, because the world where I come from, whenever there's a move by the big giants, right, it helps to create that awareness, and also it helps to create the adoption faster for the technology, right, in some ways, if it comes to life, right? And it is not just started now. I mean, Snap purchasing NextMind a few years back, and then Meta acquired that was Control Lab, and then recently Apple has acquired Q.ai. All these acquisitions are basically more working toward that so-called next generation interface, which is a neural interface, and we happen to be in that place already with as I mentioned earlier, with the very strong IP now with 33 issued patents and more in making kind of thing. So I kind of see or view the competitive landscape evolving in this area as a good thing, because nobody probably knows, or not a lot of people know, what is Naqi or Wisear individually or even combined, right? But people would notice what's happening or done by some of these tech giants, right? So it's a good thing in that regard for sure. Yes, in anything you would like to add there?
No, no, I'm 100% aligned with you. I think this is definitely helping us more than anything. It creates interest from them, from the public, and that also kind of also help us because by collaborating, since it's now part of their roadmap, by collaborating with them or by being in touch with them, we also better understand how they're going to be moving on over the next few years, and like we know what their roadmap is. And back to your first point, which is like yes, they have unlimited resources, but this is the story of every single startup out there, right? It's like when you start to try to take on a giants, and then you always start by being very nimble and very focused on a given subset of the market, which is what we're doing right now. But like the vision for Naqi is that not just to provide a device for accessibility, but use the accessibility as kind of like the founding stone of the future that we envision, where our technology would be available to, as Sandeep was mentioning, any type of form factor, but also to control any type of device, whether it is like a laptop, a smartphone, a robotic arm, your smart home. And so I think from that standpoint, like we as a startup go faster, or we can be very thorough and very focused at first on potentially smaller markets, which they cannot afford to do. And so that's how you build your first kind of like traction, and that's how you expand afterwards based on that first production launch. So yeah, I think competition is good. I think competition from the large groups is even better because it really creates awareness and interest for your technology. And so from that standpoint, I think it's a very, very exciting time right now because like we definitely see things heating up. You have more and more announcement of like companies potentially bringing electrodes to their next generation earbuds. So we see things happening. We've been there forever, and we know how the market is going. I don't know if we are yet at like a ChatGPT moment of the technology, but hopefully this will happen in the next few years. Yeah.
I definitely see what you guys are saying. And with a market or a technology that's a bit new or cutting edge like this, it's not a finite sized pie, to put it into metaphoric terms. I think the market has room to run, the market has room to grow over the coming years. I'm definitely excited about this space, and I think there's definitely space for both, big tech companies working on these sorts of things, but also, as you mentioned, like smaller startups or teams that are a bit more scrappy and can pivot. And I guess to summarize, there's space for everybody.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. At least at the beginning, yeah. Then afterwards, you become once you become a giant, it's a different story. But this is a good problem to have, I would say.
Absolutely. And then I guess to make another pivot and look at this combined entity, you kind of gave an overview of the technology you're working on and the synergies and the competitive landscape. But I guess zooming in a little bit, what should listeners be watching out for from you guys over the next few months and then maybe over the next few years as well? What's kind of on the roadmap looking forward here?
Yeah, I think I can take that, and Yasin, feel free to chip in. In terms of where we are headed, and this has become a more of a common question after people have started to play with our devices. So we have been out in some of the events where people have come and have used our devices. We are also working with partners and so on. And the question that often comes to us is like how much and how soon they can have hands on the device. They would like to have the device for themselves as a consumer. And that is where what listener would start seeing the more and more move toward the commercialization, because we are in that phase now. We are working toward commercialization, and we are going as a first market that Yasin mentioned earlier, that we are going after the accessibility market to begin with. So the use cases and partnership are more of basically enabling those use cases at the moment, while in parallel, of course, we are enabling the other use cases. So more prioritized, right? So that's where the robotic arm use case also comes in, the and the other thing that we are working on. So there would be more and more traction towards that and building, I would say, more awareness in that space.
100% aligned with Sandeep on this one, which makes sense because we've been discussing the strategy together. So yeah, nothing much to add. I think it's just like right now the core focus on the product and R&D team is let's nail it down. Let's make sure we have a product ready to ship and move outside of like that area where you have a prototype that's good but that's not robust enough that you can just leave it in everyone's hands forever. So that's really what we're focusing on right now. Is like, okay, how do we move from the EVT that we are in to like a product that's like is manufacturable and that we can start shipping. And I think that's really going to be the core focus of the company. And I'm super excited because that's a lot of fun to do now that we've solved most of the technical challenges. I would say we know which sensors to use. We know we have algorithms that are very good. We have optimized them so that they can run on like super small chipsets. We start to have like a lot of like software integrations with a bunch of platforms. So it's really just like, okay, let's package this together and let's make it a product that works. But as you know, with hardware, it's not the same as like shipping a new feature a week and updating your app on the App Store. You really have to kind of like think through everything and make sure that your product is manufactured outside. I mean, whatever it needs to be manufactured, like there's no problem in the manufacturing. So there are much more challenges to solve to get to market than for a software product.
Yeah, thanks for giving us a bit of an overview on the road ahead, what to expect, and some of the challenges. I don't have any specific additional questions to ask, but just wanted to say congrats to both of you guys on the acquisition and the partnership. Wishing you best of luck going forward. Thanks for coming on and talking with me. It's been very interesting. I learned a lot from you guys. And yeah, just wanted to open up the floor in case you guys had any closing thoughts.
Honestly, all good. Very excited for the upcoming year. Thank you again, Robert, for having us. Thank you for the work you're doing in democratizing neurotech for everyone. So really appreciate that. And then, yeah, I think 2026 is going to be very fun. So just stay tuned. You can follow Naqi on all your favorite social network. LinkedIn, it's Naqi Logix. Instagram, it's Naqi Logix. So no surprise here. And yeah, and like we'll definitely have more announcements to come later this year. We have a few partnerships that we're eager to put out. That's mostly it. So Sandeep, I don't know if you want to add anything to this.
Yeah, no, I would just double down on that. Your question earlier, Robert, was like what the listener should be looking forward to and what is coming up. I think the best way is to just follow us on the usual suspects, right? LinkedIn, Facebook, and so on, and see we are constantly posting up there that what's going on. And as we work through more and more use cases and we come closer to the launch, right? So that's happening. And I guess the way I will sum it up is Naqi, the time is now.